Hey guys, this week we're talking to you about our hopes and fears. I think it's really interesting to kind of listen to what everybody else has to say because it makes you think about what your hopes are and what you would fear, whether you're in a position of already having books out, having an agent, trying to get an agent, like whatever stage you're at, you have obviously hopes and fears. I haven't had the easiest path to like getting towards publication, but at the same time, I've achieved all my hopes and I've avoided some of my fears and other ones I've learned to embrace and kind of like switch it up. But I think as far as like being a soon-to-be published author or whatever, my biggest hope is that somebody reading my book will finish it, put it down, and just think to themselves, like, yes, this is what I was looking for. Because I went into Witch Eyes knowing that there wasn't anything in the market quite like it, and it was something that I wanted to read that I couldn't find, so I figured I would write it myself. So to have somebody be like, you know, this is exactly what I was looking for, I think that's the highest compliment, especially for me, because that's where I was 3 years ago when I wrote it. My fear is a little more complicated. Several times over the course of like the last year or so, well, since September when my book sold, I get a lot of people telling me like, well, you know, you're a small book, so it's good that you have people around you that have big books because you can ride their coattails. And there's this kind of pervasive, I guess you would say, kind of mentality, like there are big books and there are small books. And big books are like, you know, the lead title of a season, or they're from a bigger house, or they have a bigger editor, or they have like more marketing or something behind them. Something that makes them like a bigger book. And then the smaller books are the ones that don't have all those resources and has to work that much harder to kind of make an impact. But I think that's a flawed logic, and my fear is basically like all the hype behind whether it's a big book or small book is I don't ever want to be hype. And I don't ever want to succumb to the hype. I want my books to stand on their own. I guess what I think is that it doesn't matter what house you're at, what imprint you're at, whether you have an agent yet or not. Every book stands on its own 2 feet. And frankly, like there are a lot of books that I've read that had huge advances or had a huge amount of buzz, and I wouldn't read them again, and I wouldn't recommend them. At the same time, there are books that I feel like some days I'm the only one that's ever heard of, and they're amazing, and I reread them, you know, 2 or 3 times a year just because I love the book that much. So it really bothers me when people say things like, you know, well, you can ride their coattails, or, you know, you have a smaller book. No, because I have to work just as hard as everybody else, and in a lot of ways I have to work harder. So I think that whole big ramble that I just went on boils down to don't buy the hype, and I fear that people will. And I fear that hype is going to determine the course of my career, and I think that's kind of dumb. I don't write what everybody else writes, and I have a vastly different style than a lot of people, but my books will stand on their own 2 feet. I would hope. So, all that being said, we are doing the Q&A week next week, and I am so excited. I've been reading the questions all week. So, the link will be in the sidebar. If you have any questions for us, or for me specifically, you can leave them there. I fidget a lot, so I'm going to go and fidget, not on camera where people can see me. Bye, guys. Yar.